Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, April the 6th, 2023. We're going to kind of discuss DA Alvin Bragg. His case against Trump, is it strong? Nike pushing sports bras for you know who. Is that awesome, or is these red flags? GOP, I don't know. Should they weigh in on abortion laws or just stay out of it? Federal informants, should we just grant them all sorts of latitude to do whatever they want, whenever they want, and keep their identities private? What about people talking about this whole trans movement? Should they be heavily penalized up to $25,000 for having an opinion? Canada, please say it ain't so. Canada, come on, neighbors to the north. Give us something more than that, would you? Robert F. Kennedy, what do you think? Should he challenge the youthful, exuberant, most popular president in American history, Joseph Q. Biden? I know it's R. Biden, but whatever. Should he? I don't know. These topics and more will be discussed on today's show. My name is Brian Engelman.
And I'm Blake Walley.
And I'm Stephanie Jackson.
This is the Agree to Disagree show. We want your comments. We want your feedback. We want your input. Oh, Blake, I was ready to go right there to it, but now we have abstract shapes. We've moved around the graphics. Am I going with the normal intro, or should I go with abstract graphics?
No, it's right above it.
Okay.
It goes in order. Yeah.
And this is the Agree to Disagree show on the New American Media. All right, so we are back. We are in it. We're getting things going. We are chatting in our group chat. Yeah, I normally click on the last video clip for the intro, and it was changed with what's this abstract shapes MP4. So we'll get to abstract shapes MP4
new stingers
in just a little bit. I know you're all excited to tell us about the abstract stingers. But first off, I want to welcome everybody to the program watching. Oh, let me click these two buttons. Make sure you're watching on youtube.com/the New American Media. We're broadcasting for the first time in 60 days on Facebook. Facebook, they did not like that I shared a meme of a guy whose name rhymes with Grunter Stryden. They really disliked that. So they put me in the corner, and I said, nobody puts baby in a corner. And they said, yeah, well, we're the feds. I said, I know you're the feds masquerading as a social media company. What's new? They said, yeah, well, what's new? You can't talk to anybody in life for 60 days because you dared make fun of our dear leader, the guy who's single-handedly dragging us into World War III for your own good, mind you, is what they said. And I disagreed with that. I did not quite think that was a smart, awesome thing to happen. By the way, can anybody out there tell me, Blake or Stephanie, can you get into the Agree to Disagree? Are we streaming in the Agree to Disagree group on Facebook? Oh, that's right. Stephanie's not there on Facebook. Oh, I hear it.
Yeah. Blake would have to check that.
Really?
Okay. It looks like it's happening. So anyway, thank you. We are back. So join us on Facebook. Join us in all the places, in the podcasts and Spotify and Rumble and all those awesome places. Blake Walley, thank you for joining us today. Tell people where they can find you online.
TV's Blake Walley on Twitter, or of course, thenextlevelnews.com.
And it's the beginning of a new year. All the bushes and the trees are, things are turning green where they were stagnant. And this coincides with the beginning of baseball. Blake, tell us one of your favorite baseball stories. I know you used to be a super fan, being a Minnesota Twin junkie, a fantasy baseball roto league addict at one point. But, a lot of people have baseball on the mind because it's not just about sitting in a place for 2.5 to 3 hours and you hear a couple clink, clink, clinks and, a couple hits per game. And it's about like the season. It's just kind of welcoming in this new transitional phase out of the winter and into the spring and summer. So give me a good baseball story, would you? A favorite memory, a cherished moment with family or friends or that one time that your team did something amazing and you remember where you were when it happened?
Well, I actually grew up, in Minnesota. I was a Twins fan of sorts, but the first time we visited Chicago and I went to Wrigley Field, that was
Cool.
truly much a different atmosphere. Whereas the Metrodome is, it's family friendly, nice Minnesota people and that stale blue plastic seats. But then when I went to Chicago, it's all like, working class people that are taking the L train to get there. They're getting drunk. They're partying. They are having fun. It's a totally different level of energy. And Wrigley Field is like this, baseball cathedral with the ivy and the brick, the old building. It was just, it was pretty spectacular. And I became like a born again Cubs fan.
Oh.
And I spent many years as a diehard fan, watching WGN, getting off school, listening to Harry Carey and Steve Stone call the games. But then I gave up on baseball in like 2005 because it was just too much effort. So I'd like to see them make a major overhaul of the sport so that I could maybe get interested in it again. But right now I have zero interest. Yeah.
That's a great point you make here, Blake, and we'll get to you in a second, Stephanie. Don't want to leave you out of this. But they have made a bunch of significant changes. A lot of them designed it speeding up the play, taking the pace of play down to 2 hours, 2.5 hours or something instead of 3+. Are you a fan of the pitch clock? Like, this is kind of like exactly what you've been begging for. Make it more exciting. Whereas some fans are like, look, the point of a ball game isn't to watch the game. It's to go hang out in the, with your friends and family for several hours, have a few beers, drink some soda, have some nachos. It's about escaping the world for a couple hours. It's not about, I need a high speed, fast-paced situation, but they gave that to you. Is that enough to bring you back? Because you're the guy he did that for. You're the audience, the prototype.
I'm welcoming. I think they should, start the season in like May 1st. I think they should start the World Series like October 1st, condense it, maybe make it like 100 games tops. Pitch clock is great. I was going to say maybe 7 innings, but if they can keep that, on the pitch clock and keep the game flowing, that would make it more interesting for me as a spectator. So I love to play the game. I've always been into it, but I just stopped watching because it was 3 hours games and 162,000 games, then the playoffs, and the World Series is in November. Like, it just became way too much. So anyway, but
understood. That makes sense. And yeah, your Cubs took out my Cleveland Indians at our last big chance to win a World Series. And
I watched that. And that was weird because I was a diehard Cubs fan, but then all of a sudden they finally made the World Series, and then I didn't know who most of the players were.
Yeah, I know. You kind of missed the wave. Stephanie Jackson, where do people find you online, by the way? Where are you most prolific? You are on mute.
Oh, he's on mute.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can hear me now. I'm
Yes.
on Twitter, Stephanie with 5 E's and the letter J. Follow me and I will follow you back. And definitely follow me because soon we got a lot of space launches coming up in November 2024 is going to be the first launch of 4 humans going to the moon for Artemis 1. And we have a confirmed date. It's going to be the most powerful rocket humans have left Earth. We're going to do orbital launch first, practice from Boca Chica, Texas to Hawaii, going around the Earth and then landing back in Hawaii. And then after that, then it'll be the real deal. So pretty exciting things going on in space.
Excellent.
Cool.
No, that's good. By the way, quick question. MJ Sedona, Jocelyn, is she really married to Bill Buckner? I feel like we've talked about this before. Is it just a guy whose name is Bill Buckner and it's not the Bill Buckner? Is that
Bill
what it is?
Buckner, yeah, he was a great Cub first baseman for a long time.
But is she married to the Bill Buckner from the game, or just a guy whose name happens to be Bill Buckner who was not a professional ball player?
Yeah, it's the Bill Buckner.
Wow.
Okay, I know we discussed this before, but I didn't commit it to memory. So it is the Bill Buckner.
It's the real one. Yeah, the one you're thinking of. Yes.
Holy cow! All right, that's awesome. Yeah.
Maybe we can get Bill to hold up a sign to prove it. We can do You know, like the agree to disagree show and a picture of Bill to prove that. Stephanie, question to you. You know, you are
Yes.
have been making the thumbnails lately, and you sent one yesterday with the peeps. We had some rabbits for Easter. Easter coming up, by the way. You know, and
Yes.
this whole season signifies the rebirth. You know, the
Yeah.
biblical,
Yeah.
esoteric,
Very
literal,
symbolic.
figurative, new beginnings. Do you have any I know you're a big sports fan, but I mean, Arizona, what? I mean, Diamondbacks. Do you care about the Diamondbacks? Are they a
Of
team
course
like? Do
I
you have
care about the
you have
Diamondbacks.
memories of going out to?
Oh yes. It's not just about the NBA. Here's a picture of me. One of my fondest baseball memories, because it was out of nowhere. There's this chain out here in Arizona. It's probably not where you guys are at or anybody else, but Jocelyn will know. Peter Piper Pizza. So it's a pizza place. And one time I entered in to be a play ball kid for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I won. So back in 2006, Diamondbacks versus the Dodgers, I was there at the D-back Stadium and starting off the game saying one word, play ball. And here is my picture. You can kind of tell, but that's me. Yeah, it's probably too much of a glare, but that's me and our mascot. And yeah, that was probably the most fondest memory, because that's not something you could buy. It's something you have to like win. So it was a very priceless moment.
That's pretty sweet.
Awesome.
I know. I went to an old a game at the old Cleveland Municipal Stadium. I think the legend is that it was built to get the Olympics in what was it, 48 in the past, so it did not go to us. I forget what year it was exactly. But it was built for the Olympics and we never got those Olympics. But anyway, it was just this big cavernous old stadium from the 80s that was replaced. But I remember I went to an event. It was Billy Graham, the Reverend Billy Graham. He did a revival at the stadium of sorts. And so everybody went and they called the kids down. I don't know if it was the kids or everybody. I don't quite remember. But all I remember is we were able to go onto the field and we got to walk around, and it was like, the Browns play here, the Indians play here. I'm on the field. This is the coolest thing ever. So I didn't get to say, gentlemen, start your ball game or whatever you said, but I did get to go on the field itself, and that was pretty sweet, I would say. But yeah, spring is in the air. Happy Easter to everybody who celebrates such things or deprives themselves of such meat on Good Friday and only enjoys fish. I still don't get how fish aren't technically meat, because they're meat, but whatever. None of this stuff really needs to make sense. It's it is what it is. I didn't write it. So anyway, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining the show. Let's jump into all the good stuff, shall we? There's so many interesting things to talk about. I'm going to get things started with our favorite new what do you call these?
Abstract shapes.
Yes, abstract shapes, but it's called the
Stinger.
Stinger. Here's the abstract shape stinger. If you're listening to the podcast, you really got to get in onto Rumble or YouTube and watch this technological feat we're about to unlaunch. It's called abstract shapes, and it's a stinger. Here it goes.
Yeah.
That's funky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, we'll get right into. I got a message here. What is this, Blake? Want to increase engagement from your Facebook group? Invite your audience to connect their Facebook to Restream to show their. Just don't show me again. I don't know.
There was a disconnect between Restream and Facebook for a while, so it's great that you're able to broadcast into the agree to disagree room.
Allegedly,
for a long time it wasn't working at all. So
yeah, it is good to be back. Jocelyn is saying no, her Bill is still alive. So the real Bill Buckner passed away. He'd never let that ball go between his legs. Oh, there's jokes, Jocelyn. I'm not making any jokes about balls and legs and your husband. That's just wrong. Not going there. She says, but she has had people mistake her Bill for the baseball player. They are cousins. All right, now, are they really cousins, or are you messing with me again? Like, I don't know what's real and what's not here.
Bill Buckner had a great career, and he was an older veteran by the time they got to the 86 World Series. Went from the Cubs to the Red Sox. They used to have like a defensive replacement that would come in late in the games, but for some reason they just let him out there to just have the big rush of the World Series, and it was just a terrible tragedy that his career was hurt by that one error. But baseball legend.
What did Eminem say? You better lose yourself in the music the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss a chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime, She said one time she checked into a hotel in Vegas and there's a big gift basket waiting for them. For Bill Buckner from a Cubs fan, it was lovely to experience what superstars experience regularly. Okay, so she's saying they are really cousins, second cousins once removed. All right, cool. Well, that's a sidebar. I had no idea we were anticipating today, but thanks for all that. Baseball's in the air, and the Cleveland Baseball Squadron, I'll just call them the Tribe. I don't like using the G word. I find it offensive in every way that they erased my favorite team. But the Cleveland Tribe are in first place right now, 5-2 in the division, leading the Central or the North Central. So anyhow, let's get into things that matter, shall we? And I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with this story because it's sucking all the oxygen out of the room, and there's really important stories that we need to be covering. I don't want to get too in the weeds, just completely fixated on Trump, because it is an addiction of sorts. It is. The media cannot get enough of just hating Trump and lying about Trump and trying to destroy Trump. And it's like, I don't care what you root for. Like, we're on the same team and this country's falling to pieces and there's important stuff to handle, but we need to talk about it. So let's talk about it. Would we agree or disagree? Let's start with Stephanie. Let's mix it up today. We never do this. Let me start with Stephanie. Do you think DA Alvin Bragg, let me frame this as a statement, not a question. I apologize. DA Alvin Bragg has a strong case against Donald Trump. Would you agree or disagree that Bragg has a strong case against Trump?
I would disagree he has a strong case, but I would agree he is a very determined individual. I saw his press conference after explaining about what's going on with Trump, and he said, like, I've been in this business, I've been doing this for about 26 years. And he kept reiterating over and over and over again, it doesn't matter who you are and how much money you have, nobody's above the law. And he kept saying that, not, towards Trump. So I mean, it's just a huge mess. It is the biggest mess. I don't know how he could run while you're dealing with all of this. And, just like Blake said the other day on the show, you think he does his taxes? No, it's like he has all these other people. So what if he has his signature on it? It doesn't prove anything. It's probably like those signatures where you just like copy and paste. So it's going to take a long time, but they seem very determined. Like, they're already talking about him as if he's guilty, and he hasn't even went through the whole process. So it's just going to be a rat race, and it's just going to kill time and resources for him rallying. He shouldn't be focusing on this, but he is. But it being in New York and the DA's after you and 34 counts, how are you even going to get out of that? So it's going to be really interesting. But to be honest, I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of this whole Trump thing. It's like, man, he just cannot stay out of the news. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. But if he gets locked up, then maybe we should lock up Nancy Pelosi for inside trading. Are you going to lock up all these other people? You're probably not. So that's really frustrating.
Well, I think it is time to start going after the Pelosi's. I think it is time to go after Obama, Biden. There's a laundry list of people that need to be gone after through the legal system. People that have participated in high crimes and misdemeanors, impeachable offenses, and traitorous activity, if I do say so myself. It's really interesting with this kind of, now that we've had some time to chew on the charges, and it's like 34 charges, but it's like the same one charge multiplied by 11 or something like that. It's really ridiculous. And Blake, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe my understanding is that this all took place. It wasn't even paid by Trump. It was paid by Cohen, the disgraced lying attorney who's already been busted, in reference to a lady who just got another legal opinion thrown at at her from the legal system. Stormy Daniels now has to pay another, $129,000 to Trump as of yesterday. There was another ruling on top of the 300,000 or 400,000. So it's like a liar and a liar walk into a bar, so it's like, yes, I totally get that the Trump thing's getting old, but Stephanie, I would just argue this is the media and the Democrat playing the world as its own fiddle. I don't think it's a Trump thing. I think it's the lunacy of the left thing. But that being said, Blake, I think my understanding is that this was all happening at the time after Trump became president and resigned from all of his companies effective immediately. Any of these charges happened after he wasn't even at the company. He resigned from those posts, and they're trying to pin it on him, even though it was Cohen that paid. I mean, what have you been able to take away from the details of this case? Do you have an article to pull up? Do you have any thoughts on this, Mr. Walley? What are your spidey senses saying now that we've peeled back some layers of this onion here?
I mean, the case looks like it's weak at best. So I will have to disagree that he has a strong case. It's pretty embarrassing. They came out with like, oh, we got 34 felonies. We got him good. And they actually had time to think about it because they were going to indict him, and then they kind of backed off once the pressure came on, and then they decided to go with it. And he figured with the grand jury they had something, but like I said, it was like 34. It was like the one charge 34 times. We don't know how much he had to do with any of it. It's a petty thing. It's past the statute of limitations. They're trying to make something because they're so desperate to get their guy. But I do have a couple of articles. We got the FEC commissioner and in the Trump Stormy Daniels case. It's not a campaign finance violation. It's not a reporting violation of any kind. And it's also what's more interesting. There's 12 anti-Trump and lawmakers who also think that Bragg's case is terrible. So even the people that hate Trump or were just out for blood and looking for something, once they actually read the indictment, they just went, there is no there. So for weeks, former President Trump, legal experts on the right predicted the prosecution Alvin Bragg brought against Trump was pathetic and partisan. That includes even Andrew McCabe of the FBI, Jonathan Chait, hack from New York Magazine. Alan Dershowitz is more of a pro-Trump, I think. I don't know if he's that bad, so I might disagree with that one. Not totally familiar with Cordero. Senator Mitt Romney, who hates Trump, who we hate or dislike strongly. Even he couldn't, he didn't really have much to say. He said, believe Trump's character and conduct make him unfit for office. Even so, I believe the New York prosecutor has stretched to reach felony criminal charges in order to fit a political agenda. You've got big neocon arch villain John Bolton says that's wrong on the applicability of the New York statute. Ian Millhiser, who's a total hack, works at Vox. See him on Twitter, who's constantly criticizing Trump. Couldn't find anything. Noah Feldman, Mark Joseph Stern, even Michael Avenatti. You can't build a case on the testimony of Cohen and Daniels, his former client. So that's pretty bad.
Avenatti's even coming out.
Yeah. So the whole thing is crumbling away. And they got nothing. They just embarrassed themselves, and then they emboldened the MAGA base, and they're going to make Trump stronger than ever. So I thought it was going to backfire, and it was even worse than I would have thought. So, but hey, they did it to themselves. They knew exactly what they were getting into. They had all the internals, thought about it, game planned it, and they still botched it up.
Well, I mean, they botched it, but did they? I mean, there's more coming down the pike. I think it's pike. I love those turns of phrases, those idioms, those axioms. Is it idioms? Is it down the pipe or down the pike?
I think it's down the pike, but I think you could use it either way.
Yeah, I think down the pike.
Is that what you said, Blake? With a K?
Bold-faced lie.
K.
Yeah.
You said with a K as well, Blake?
Yeah, K.
Let's say pike. K. Down the turnpike. Yeah.
Like
okay, yeah, I think it's pike as well. But yeah, what was the one you just said? The other one, Blake? bald
face
face and
lie,
bold
bald
face.
face lie. I think he'd use them both, but they're
Bold and bald. Yeah, I love it.
Regional differences.
So let's think of somebody who's bold and bold. Bold and bold. Bold and bald.
Yeah.
When I say bold and bald, who do you think of? Who's bold and bald?
Bald Bull of I don't know, Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Oh, that's awesome. What about Bull from Night Court?
Yeah, Richard Mall. There you go.
Yes,
Great.
that's a pretty good one.
It's a great show.
Maybe like Dana White or Joe Rogan, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Bold and bald.
One of those would be fair.
Larry David.
He's still got the frizzies, doesn't he have frizzies? He's not fully chrome domed.
Yeah,
like
but he represents the
Scott
bald
Adams?
community. Scott Adams. Is
okay,
bald.
Scott's
What is he?
Does he shave? Yeah, is he? I mean, he puts bold opinions out. That's something. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Jocelyn here. She's saying that. Let's see. She's kind of wondering out loud if AI wrote the indictment and to select the grand jury. That's interesting. I wonder how you could do that to like weed people out and
it
get
would be a great way to practice. Like, imagine if you were in New York and be like, "Hey, wouldn't that be funny if we figure out Trump's case using ChatGPT AI, see what it says?" I don't know. It's probably not the case, but it's a funny thought. And who knows? It wouldn't hurt to experiment with somebody's life.
What about robot lawyers that could just go through all of the cases in an instant?
Yeah, it's cheap. It's all what lawyers are doing is just remembering and knowing a previous case. AI, there's no flaw in the memory. And people have lost cases by like, oh, I haven't remembered that. But the one thing what AI doesn't have, it doesn't have heart and soul, because you can be swayed by charisma.
Man, if there's one thing I think of when I think of attorneys, it's heart and soul. I really think they've got the best soul.
Right? Yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah. No, that is pretty darn interesting. Wondering what you could do if you had artificial intelligence, because it's really just citing cases, and it's like how quickly can you recall, and how best can you put a defense forward based on, if this is your case, these are the 20 things that people should probably look at first and do any, and kind of coordinate. Some of this stuff would be really nice to automate.
A lot of it's cookie cutter. I mean, why do we even have people, and especially paying, like, let's say, so it's something small, for example, and you guys spend like thousands of dollars with a lawyer when a robot can do it. I mean, when it's like more serious things, like let's say if you're OJ, that's when you need a great lawyer to then tamper with evidence and switch gloves.
I love that. And cut to a few decades later, the Kardashians. Thank you, Robert. Kardashian. That was awesome.
The curse is real.
Yeah. Jocelyn continues here. By the way, she says, I'm cracking her up. I'm not sure about what, but I'll take it. Anytime I can garner a laugh, I've done my job for the day. She puts out there, can the defense request the bill of particulars be delivered within 14 days? She predicts jury nullification if it makes it to court, providing any Republicans get on the jury. How long is this going to get dragged out? Because after all the analysis, I've been kind of breaking this apart from different angles. This should be thrown out on multiple levels, and the district attorney should be prosecuted. Maybe that second part could be up for maybe discussion, but there's really it's not just that there's no there's no leg for it to stand on. There's nothing about this that really holds any water. It doesn't make a lick of sense. So, I mean, that'll be one of my biggest questions moving forward is, one of the points that I believe Jocelyn said here, I had stopped scrolling a few moments ago, but, it's almost like the process is the penalty. And it's like, just by making an accusation, okay, great. Now the next 2-3 years of your life are ruined, and hundreds of thousands of dollars later, it's like Kyle Rittenhouse. There was so much ample video evidence. The kid was getting attacked and defended himself at every occasion. There was nothing like a gray area. We need to go to court. Like, It was instant exculpatory evidence. For a district attorney to go forward with a BS prosecution in light of overwhelmingly obvious, simply stated, articulatable. Anyway, that's an awful word to try. Articulatable. Anyway, is that a word? No, I don't know. Blake's putting his eyes open big, trying to make sense.
Close enough.
Articulatable. Yeah, it should have been dropped. And I'm getting really tired of these district attorneys that are using unlimited tax funds to go on politically driven witch hunts against Kyle and against the Second Amendment right to defend yourself, against President Trump, and taking out your number one rival, who, I mean, you know, most popular president in history, Biden, of course, 81 million totally legitimate votes, guys. You know, it's all out in the open. It's all right there. So there needs to be a pushback. Yes, I'm going to go to the old refrain again. It is time for the Republicans to go on offense as aggressively as possible, politically speaking. It's time to push back on people like Bragg. So I don't know. We'll stay tuned. I mean, haven't seen much other than he's raised a ton of money. Trump has distanced himself from any air quote competition. There is no competition. 2024 is all about President Trump. Anybody else, that's great and all, but you stay on the sidelines and wait until you can play the JV game once the adults finish their game. Okay. You can play afterward. Once we're done on the main field, you can run around once we go into the locker room. So little Ronnie D can have his chance in 4 years or what have you, even though he's being pushed very aggressively right now. It's the Trump show. It's all about 2024. And, you know, I've seen people like Glenn Beck talking about how Trump isn't even a man anymore. He's just a symbol. He's a symbol of getting kicked around by a legal system that doesn't give a damn about any sort of, you see Lady Justice with her eyes blindfolded, and, you know, you're supposed to take the details of a case and judge it blindly. Everything is so slanted and one-sided against anything conservative, libertarian that's not completely woke. There is no justice system if there is no justice. And it's becoming painfully obvious that something needs to change. There needs to be some sort of safeguards against destroying humans in public for political gain. And that's what our courts have devolved into. So if nothing else, like we said a couple days ago during the show, it might be a good thing that Trump was indicted, because it has exposed all of the corruption. It has united a nation against this nonsense. It's made Trump bigger than life. I mean, he's a far from perfect human being, let alone a far from perfect political figure, but he's done some of the best things I've seen in my lifetime from that office. And I'll tell you what, if Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney and Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama can't stand the guy, hey, I'll tell you what, I'm willing to give him a shot, because I don't like any of those people. I think those people I just mentioned are the most corrupt people that have been destroying America for a really long time. Not accidentally, very intentionally destroying this country. So, you know, he's not a part of their system. Thank God. But we got to get him back in office as soon as possible. Those are my thoughts. We'll see how it shakes out. But, you know, this whole Bragg thing with there being no there, I just, unless there's something I'm missing, I'm not picking up on any reason why this shouldn't be thrown out immediately. I think Jocelyn was saying that it's likely that there's not going to be another hearing on this until December. That can't be right. That seems like a long time. Is that it, Blake?
Yeah,
nothing new on this until December?
They did the arraignment. He showed up, and then they're gonna wait till December. But meanwhile, his lawyers are just gonna try to get it thrown out. So
it takes a long time for any of this.
Oh yeah, legal process.
And I just got a notification. The cool thing about having, like, I do have Truth Social, and I'm not on there all the time, you know, but what's cool, they'll give you these notifications, and, you know, that's definitely real time what's going on. And I just got a notification from Truth Social saying that they just, Trump's team just submitted their subpoena to the DA, to Alvin Bragg. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's gonna take years, or maybe it might be thrown out. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at the people on the J6 that have been rotting in those jail cells and stuff. These, you know, many of these non-violent people that were just walking around being pushed in by feds pushed in by undercovers that are just trying to get this story out there. It's been two years now. It's been 2.5 years, coming up on 2.5 years. We're supposed to have a fair and speedy trial. Now, I get needing some time to prepare for things, but like, there should be occasion where when there's charges were accused, things get started at the very beginning of the legal process. Legal process is a very long timeline, but there should be off ramps, a lot of off ramps at the beginning of the legal process where people should be able to just kind of get an impartial judge to review it, kind of, all right, let me see the bullet points. All right. Yes. Oh my God. You look at Rittenhouse, you go, hang on, just the quick overview of this video shows him getting attacked and he defended himself. This video, an attack, he defended himself. This was just simple self-defense. We're throwing this out. The fact that any of these non-cases are turning into cases, I think we need to revamp the off-ramp system. I know that's not a legal term, but there should be instant off-ramp opportunities when false charges, fake accusations, clearly disputed, obviously correctable with the information just on a bullet point. If you could just have, a couple of links and a couple of bullet points, if you can make your case so obviously, save the taxpayers the money, stop these ridiculous prosecutions. I think one of the only good things that came out of Ferguson, if you can remember all the way back to those little riots compared to 2020, the Democrat-funded, BLM-funded riots of America. I think with the Michael Brown thing, when the lie went out there and through the media said, well, this innocent young man, he was confronted by a police officer and the cop said, hands up, don't shoot, or he said hands up and he put his hands up and he says, don't shoot. And then bang, 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 bang. This innocent person was just destroyed in the street, like because racism. And you go, oh my gosh, that sounds awful. What year are we in? This is just gross. We need police reform. And then you start figuring out, you're like, okay, that never happened. None of that happened. He attacked the cop and he was reaching for his gun through the window. Then he took off and then he came back at him again to charge him. And that's when he was finally shot. It seemed like a suicide by cop thing after he committed a strong arm robbery at a store. And you go, everything about the story as it was reported in the beginning was fake. Everything was just to create maximum outrage. And we want cities burning. We want looting opportunities. And we want to demonize people that are not on our political side of the aisle. And it's gross. But it was instantly available to take that accusation and disprove it. And the thing that came out of that was body cameras. It hasn't gone into effect in every location, but I feel like nationwide, the demand for body cameras that cannot be turned off. Number one, they cannot be turned off. And every police officer has to wear them. And you can't edit any of it. I feel like that is a bare minimum requirement for our police forces. Stemming from those accusations, those fake accusations in Ferguson, that was a good thing that came from that awful moment. Nobody wants to see, even a bad guy. You don't want to see a violent idiot get shot and killed. It is satisfying to watch when bad guys get, they F around and they find out. And it's like, okay, fine. But like, nobody's really rooting for open warfare on the streets. Nobody wants to see unnecessary violence. But when a good person's attacked by a bad person and that bad person is stopped, yes, that is cause for applause. But when you have a body camera, it protects the cop from false accusations. When you have a body camera, like you will know the story. You'll have access to at least what it looked like in real time. So, that was something that positively came out of that experience rolling through Ferguson into today, and all the police forces that just kind of see it as a bare minimum standard. We have to do this to protect our crew and to protect the general public. And there's a lot more, police act differently when they know they're being watched, when they're being listened to. But if they can turn that thing off and pause it themselves, then that negates it. So if we can apply all of those philosophies from that incident and other similar incidents that really led to the public outcry, that's a net win overall. At the end of the day, you made the best out of a situation that was unpleasant. And that's what I'm saying in this case with the Donald Trump thing, with Kyle Rittenhouse's bogus charges and having to stand trial for this. Like, you should have more off-ramp opportunities for maybe a third-party judge who's not affiliated with it, who's not wrapped up in it, who doesn't have an eager district attorney pushing politics and trying to get their name in the headlines, just somebody disconnected that could look and throw some of these charges out when they should not even be going forward in the first place. So that was a long way of saying, let's see how this goes. Anyway, we got a lot more to talk about today, but any final thoughts from you or from you?
I would have to agree with everything you're saying, Brian. I mean, like, that would all be great if we lived in a perfect world, but we don't. But I don't know. Like, I really think you should really get into politics, Brian. I mean, if you really have the answers and the solutions, like, get involved. Get involved with like local city council, and Blake and I will support you along the way.
Yeah, but you live in different places. So that once again, we're back to this. We were talking the other day about.
We could tweet.
Yes, you have my support, but I need your votes. I need those votes. I need the drop boxes. I need you to push for drop boxes. Any final thoughts on all of that, Blake?
Well, yeah, I'd like to see a lot of changes go on because I live in this crazy world and it's very inefficient. It drives me crazy, and I have my own little utopian idealistic vision in my head of how I'd like to see things work. And yeah, part of that would get rid of a lot of that judicial BS and just go back to, common law, common sense. It's lawyers.
I just remembered something. You were saying it a minute ago. You were talking about how we could get an AI robot lawyer. And that reminded me of do you remember the old Saturday Night Live back when they were funny? And they had a skit called Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer.
Of course, Phil Hartman.
Yes, yeah. Phil Hartman, the classic Phil Hartman, the unfrozen caveman lawyer. Now, look, all of your fancy customs might be new to me as I'm an unfrozen caveman lawyer. However, yes. Anyway, yeah, like AI lawyers and unfrozen caveman lawyers. Look up the skits.
That was the golden age. Yeah,
it was. I mean, the cast during those days, they didn't have the strongest skits, but they had some of the funniest cast. I mean, from Mike Myers to Chris Rock and Phil Hartman. I mean, just there was a nice stretch of really talented people there. Farley and the
Harvey
like.
Myers, Farley,
Sandler,
even Al Franken. As much as I hate him now politically, he was a genius behind the scenes writing a lot of that stuff.
Rob Schneider is a carrot. Yeah, Rob Schneider, and he's extended his career, and he's speaking out on social issues in a way that you never expected Rob Schneider to be one of the few Hollywood people to speak some truth to power. But here he is.
Yep.
Yeah, Rob Schneider actually moved to Arizona.
That's
he lives here in Scottsdale, and he actually made this movie. He has like a young kid and did this like a daddy-daughter trip, and it's actually all these places in Arizona. So if Rob Schneider moved to Arizona, maybe it's a sign that Brian and Blake need to move out to the Valley of the Sun state.
Rob Schneider is a carrot.
Right. Arizona's on the short list of places I would move, but I'd probably be thinking like Flagstaff, Williams, Sedona.
Yeah, go up north.
I'm not touching the desert. No.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, you could still, because you guys are used to the cold and the snow, so Flagstaff will be perfect. And trust me, it's right now. It's actually snowing in Flagstaff. So.
Nope. Yeah, I'm out on Flagstaff. I think that Flagstaff is one of the creepiest places in America. I have always thought this. I have stayed in Flagstaff. I have driven through Flagstaff. It creeps me out when I'm there. I don't know what it is about it. It's a place I would not live.
Yeah, but your opinion will change when Blake moves there. You're gonna be like, "Oh, it's a wonderful place because my bestie Blake lives there."
So what were you saying? The beatings will continue until morale improves? Yeah. Yes, if I just live, let's pass the bill to find out what's in it. Just move to Flagstaff, and then you'll come around on it. Yeah, sure, I will. We'll see. I dig Arizona. I love Arizona. I love the Southwest. I love Taos, New Mexico, and just I dig the energy of that area. But yeah, Flagstaff's a little bit of a weird one. What'd you pull up here, Blake? Oh,
MJ Sedona's talking about the classic SNL.
Jane Curtin, John Belushi, Gilda Radner, Aykroyd, Garrett Morris, Chevy Chase. Yeah, Chevy Chase.
There's no Bill Murray on that list.
There's a good question. Bill Murray. Who Who's your favorite Saturday Night Live cast member of all time?
Oh man, that's too
Ooh.
tough.
Oh, I have
Oh.
one. Mine is John Candy.
He wasn't a
He was on
cast member.
Second City Television, SCTV.
Second City TV. So he was on a similar.
Yeah, the Canadian version of Saturday Night
Yeah,
Live.
he wasn't really.
With Rick
Yeah,
Moranis.
he wasn't really on SNL. But I don't know. I just like him. I
I'm
just
thinking of
like
John Goodman. He was
Uncle
freaking...
Buck. That movie, that's pretty good.
Well,
oh,
John,
yeah, no,
John Goodman was a regular like he hosted a lot at several times.
He's probably been the #1 host.
Did Candy host? Did he ever host John Candy? I don't know.
I don't remember that.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't even know if I remember him ever being on the show, and he should have. You would think he would have done it. But I can't honestly remember one sketch with John Candy on SNL.
I mean, I loved when Sandler would do the weekend updates. I mean, probably Norm Macdonald is probably like he's probably one of my favorite comedians of all time. And just the way he delivered, and now the fake news. Like he invented the term fake news. We give Donald Trump credit because he turned it around from Hillary trying to use it. He's like, oh, you're going to try to use fake news on me? Guess what, lady? I'm going to use it on you. You're fake news. And like he completely took all the wind out of her sails and owned the phrase. But fake news came from, and maybe it came from other places too, but majorly made popular by Norm Macdonald hosting Weekend Update during the OJ years, during the Bill Clinton, OJ Simpson, Lorena Bobbitt. Like there were certain stories that were happening during his tenure that led to all his. That'd probably be my favorite, Norm Macdonald. Who were your favorites? That's another one of our questions of the days. Questions of the day. Favorite SNL characters. But what about modern times? Do you listen to Stephanie? Any of the new cast that you like? I can't even name most of the people.
I do like some. I like this one guy. He played. I don't know. You guys probably seen it where he they reenacted the Will Smith slap. And this one, he's really, I would say, probably the most talented person I've seen.
Oh, is that Michael Che, the black dude that does all the impressions?
No.
Because that guy's pretty good.
I have to look it up, but he was acting like the audience member. And like, oh, this is so exciting. I'm sitting next to Will Smith. Chris Rock is on stage. This is an awesome night. Can I get a selfie, Will Smith? And then he's like, yeah. One moment. And then he goes, slaps, Chris Rock and comes back like, hey, what about that selfie? And he's like, I don't have a phone. I don't know my name. Like gets all scared. But that was
Kenan
really
Thompson, probably,
skit. Yeah.
Kenan Thompson. MJ Sedona saying Post Office skit with John Candy and Gilda Radner was a classic. All right. So was John Candy on that with Gilda Radner back in the late 70s, early 80s? So many questions.
As a host. So they used to run Saturday Night Live. And then after that, then they would show Second City TV out of Canada. And that brought up a bunch of stars too. You got John Candy, you had Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas, Eugene Levy. I think there was a couple more. I didn't really watch it. It was when I was a kid, but John Candy.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I In Living Color was the
and
one.
Rick Moranis is a genius too.
Living Color, yeah. Jim Carrey.
Yeah, good times. All right, next story. Real stories. Let's go.
Yeah.
I just lowered the volume on that one by 3 decibels. So
that was better. Thank you. Yeah, Blake crushing it. By the way, want to give Blake a public accolades and kudos. I know we were all excited to watch him dancing during our last show. That was super awesome video. Go back and watch the plays. It's so nice. Yeah. But no, just heavy accolades to the work that Stephanie has been doing, putting some of the thumbnails together, and Blake for doing the research on grabbing the articles that we're going to use and cut to so that we can kind of cite some sources, and a lot of the work on the back end, doing the stingers, the transitions, and messing with the audio levels, and finally, yes, nailing the format we're going for with the statement and the question mark so that it reads agree or disagree, then the statement. Like it's been great. Like it's been a great couple of months here to getting things just a finely tuned machine. We are just I feel like we're in a nice rhythm now. Like we can knock out the quick show. We can have a little bit of banter in between heavy topics and try to have a little bit of fun in the process. I think it's going well. So Blake,
Yeah.
acceptance speech of your hypothetical award that I just handed you.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. I'm trying to, yes.
Anybody you'd like to thank today?
I'd like to thank you both. You guys do such a fantastic job. Brian's
no, not me. Thanks somebody random.
He's my what would you call it? The extroverted compliment. Who yes, and so is Stephanie, bringing in tons of potential. Just started, so you're doing such a great job. Like Brian and I have been doing this for a long time, but look at you coming along already. So
yes, I guess you would say
thumbnails.
that I'm
making the thumbnails now too.
Exactly.
You're up to speed,
And
Before
overseeing
you know it,
the
I'll
chat
be doing
group.
everything.
Yes, she'll be solo, and we'll just be twiddling our thumbs. Yeah, I believe what you were saying, Blake, is for the extrovert. There's a Simpsons. Be my sober yin to my raging yang. So I'd probably be the raging yang. You'd be the sober yin. Introvert, extrovert. Maybe going off of that yin and yang concept there. Okay, so agree or disagree, folks? We'll start with Blake this time. We should conceal federal informants and allow them to break laws, for the greater good. Blake, do you agree or disagree that we should conceal federal informants and allow them to break laws? Because, reasons.
I'm going to disagree. I mean, this probably, and maybe at some point in time, in very rare situations, that actually might be helpful. Like if we did have, violent group, let's say like Antifa, domestic terrorists, and they were, causing mayhem all over the country, then maybe you could have some federal informants and we could conceal their identities a little bit. And yeah, if they needed to break a few laws so that they could, gain credibility with their, coworkers, then yeah, maybe that would be okay. But in this case, I'm referencing with January 6th. So with one of the Proud Boys has been on trial. And so far, they've determined that is at least 40 informants that were there in the crowd on January 6th that day.
Okay, Blake.
The FBI, Department of Homeland Security, at least
there
40.
had to be 4,000. Come on, let's be honest.
Yeah, well, that's so far that they've identified at least 40. So that's pretty crazy. I don't know if I can pull up a quick...
You're on mute, Stephanie. You're saying something, but you're on mute.
When you guys were there, were you guys like thinking, like kind of looking around and thinking like, oh, that guy looks like a informant, or you guys weren't thinking about that? Could you tell like who's undercover, not undercover by any chance?
I had a moment where I was standing on the platform. We had walked all the way from where were we at, Blake? They were yelling, "Do your job, do your job." That was the Justice Department.
From the Department of Justice, yeah.
Yeah, and so it was after the speech, Justice Department afterward. I know Blake and I had to find a bush to use.
We had a long walk.
Yeah, we had to take some coffee put it in the ground. Yep. But so when we made our way over to the Capitol and we kind of hit this crest. And we walked up, and then like we saw the whole it was something out of a movie. Mm-hmm. You just kind of, oh my Lord, and you saw the whole scope of it. We went a little further, and there was a platform, probably a photography platform for they were going to probably do the inauguration there or something, right? They had the scaffolding built on the sides, and when we got to that spot and stayed still, I was like, no, this is where I want to be. Everything's in chaos, but this can give me a stable platform to get a good shot. I can survey the land better from up here. But at some point when we were up there, just all of a sudden, it was almost like I could feel the hair on my neck in my arms, like stand up. And people behind were like, get out of the way. If you're not going inside, get and they're swearing. They're like, get out of the way. If you're not going inside, get out of the way. We're moving forward. And so it was around that point that people started pushing and making their way through in a massive American flag. I mean, the biggest American flag you've seen outside of, covering an entire baseball field at an all-star game or something. This huge flag comes through. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it was massive. It was a huge one. And it was like all of these people swarmed through us. And so like, there's the flag, and I mean, there's 100 people holding it, and there's people, banging and pushing through. And we watched that when we were licensing the footage with Ford Fisher and News to Share. And there were a lot of people in khaki pants, military boots, light blue T-shirts, light blue, what am I saying? Like golf shirts, polos or something. It was a lot of the same dressed people plowing forward, pushing aggressively, trying to get more people to go inside. And I said it from the minute it happened. I'm like, I got such a bad, like a creepy sensation from that whole experience. I said, I bet you they were all feds. These were all bad guys trying to start problems. And, you know, that was one of my thoughts. Blake, did you have a thought on walking through, guessing who were feds and guessing who were, like, how do you tell a patriot from a fed? Like, I don't know that I was thinking that, but I felt it in that particular moment. I was like, something's off with this whole group of people. I suspected infiltration from them right away. Did you have any other moments where you thought along those lines?
Yeah, it was a weird vibe in general. I mean, you know, it was all cool, it was all calm for, you know, most of the whole day. And then, you know, we didn't really know what was going to happen. I wasn't planning on necessarily going to the Capitol for that part of the protest, and I didn't know what to expect. And we got that, we were kind of in, I don't know, maybe halfway through the crowd or something. So we had no oblivious,
probably halfway, yeah,
happening with Ray Epps and, you know, the agitators, what they were setting up before we got there. But yeah, then we kind of got onto this platform and we kind of bottlenecked some of the crowd, and people were getting impatient because they were trying to keep, you know, everybody pushing forward. And yeah, it was all happening so fast, and it was just in the moment. So I didn't really think about it like, oh, you know, maybe these people are agitators. It didn't quite occur to me at that time.
And if you remember, a lot of the people that ended up, you know, kind of causing some of the biggest problems and getting into it the most, that was happening during the president's speech. During President Trump's speech, it had already broken through barricades. Ray Epps was already there, right? Like, he was already pushing through barricades. They were already inside getting their photo. Like, nobody knew what was going on. You couldn't even hear President Trump on where we were standing, and we were moving around. And at some point, it was so jam-packed, there was you couldn't even move. Even if you wanted to try to get to where the restroom was to wait in line with those 70 other people, you couldn't get to it because nobody was moving anywhere. And I played football. I've been a bartender, and those two things in general, it's about finding creases in piled masses and trying to work. You spin, you twist, you drop a shoulder, you work your way behind somebody, you tap them, hey, excuse me, part. Like, I can get through crowds anywhere. I was completely jammed. I could not move in this crowd. I just got boxed in, and I was like, well, shit, I guess I'm going to stand here for a little bit now, aren't I? But yeah, I mean, it was like you couldn't even hear what the president was saying. It's not like, oh, he whipped people up into a frenzy to go destroy our democracy. It's like, you clowns. Like no, that doesn't pass it's not like, let's go get them. And then everybody starts charging, you know, and you got these fat old people with their their pushabouts, and you know, the people that are late night buying catheters off of Fox News, like they're just running, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling over to the Capitol with pitchforks and torches. None of that happened. That was not a thing. Like, you know, so yeah, I guess that was a long way of saying there were moments, but it was, you know, there were a lot of people there that had some military style gear, but they could have been oath keepers. They could have been prepared people. I mean, anybody prepared would have some vests with some pockets and some earpieces and some radio devices, knowing that the cell systems would be jammed, which they were. I mean, we were getting our information about Ashley Babbitt getting shot and killed just word of mouth through the crowd, because our phones wouldn't refresh. We couldn't get Twitter. We couldn't get Facebook. We couldn't find out what was going on. It was kind of word of mouth, and people had like old school radios, like, hang on, they're saying this, they're saying that. You're like, what era am I in? It's like jumping into a time warp or something. But anyway, I digress. So Blake, wrapping up your thought there about the federal informants and stuff. They're embedded everywhere. What do we do with this information? Because they're still embedded within the defense of these people. They're still pretending to be normal people, but they're federal informants involved with the legal defense of these people. Like, if you can't throw cases out based on this, what could you ever throw a case out based on?
Oh, they didn't want to throw these cases out. They didn't want this information getting out. So they wanted to get their political prisoners and demonize the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and anybody affiliated with MAGA. So, but then they had some of these were paid agitators. I got another one. So the attorneys in the Proud Boys J6 trial alleged in court today, DHS had more undercover informants than the FBI, including Ray Epps. So the total number now is more than 40, with at least 19 belonging to the DHS. This is also out of the Epic Times.
So did they name Ray Epps as he's DHS now? Did they narrow down which division he was serving in, or did I mishear that? Because everybody with an eye to see or an ear to listen, we know that Ray Epps is a Fed. We know that he was trying to initiate violence and subvert the Constitution and try to get bad things to happen. Create the crime and then stop the crime. Oh, you're such a hero, Ray. You got him good. You got who? You got the people that you worked up into a frothing frenzy. Wow, I'm so good at my job. You're right, I am. How about a raise? But I didn't know if he was like linked to. Is he DHS or is he CIA? Is he FBI? Do we know which alphabet agency this clown is a part of?
No, not yet. He's got to be part of something because they're protecting him. So on Thursday, they filed a motion to serve witness Ray Epps. Defendants contend that he's being suspiciously protected from prosecution by the government, but that's all I've got. So I don't know which agency or if it entirely matters, but it is curiosity. So they're still digging away, and it's really ruining the government's case, but that is a good thing, so we can free these innocent protesters. Look at the kitty cat. What's the name?
Stephanie, take it to you. Oh my gosh, that cat looks like the Puss in Boots one with the big eyes. Jeez.
Hey,
wow. What up, bud?
Hello.
So
his name is Charcoal.
So does Charcoal think that the federal informants should be allowed to break laws? Do you think it's in the greater good? Do you think that they should be able to do such things? Or would you disagree?
Let me ask him real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, are you going to say to a cat, pss, 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 pss? That's her favorite noise. Pss, pss, pss.
He said that nothing should be concealed.
There we go. That's like shaking the magic 8 ball. You're cuddling your magic 8 cat. I don't know, something like that. So yeah, I mean, and look, I'll play the flip side. I'll go devil's advocate for a second and just say, I totally understand the importance of wanting to infiltrate groups, gatherings, organizations, what have you. It's one thing to be on the inside and just kind of listening and relaying information. It's another to try to encourage illegal, violent acts to subvert the cause of the event that they're putting on. And I feel like maybe it's hard to figure out when that line gets crossed. When does that gray area disappear between reconnaissance and information gathering and complete subversion and action, aggressive action? But then again, I don't know that it is that hard to differentiate the difference. I think it's clear when you start participating in trying to encourage violence. I think that makes you a bad guy. I think that kind of takes. They're like, well, how are we going to find the bad guys unless we encourage them to be bad? It's like, are you simple? Really? This is the best, because this is kind of the stuff that they say, Blake, that they kind of do this holier than thou, this pious act. And it's like, well, aren't you? It's like the bully in the schoolyard grabs your arm, goes, stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Oh, come on. Stop hitting yourself. Leave me alone. Stop hitting yourself. And they have your own arm in their hand and they're hitting you with your own arm. And then they're yelling at you because you won't stop hitting yourself. By the way, it's making an awesome sound on my forehead. It's like echoing in my earphones. I'll stop doing it though. I'm going to get a bruise. But I mean, Blake, what do you say about that thin line there between just getting inside to make sure, hey, look, I'm hearing that these guys are going to do something with a backpack and it could go off and we need to get on, okay, you found something and you're going to versus let's go in there. Let's do this together. Or you're in the hall in the stairwell with Ashley Babbitt and you're putting on a fake hat and you're trying to pretend you're just a journalist, but you're trying to get everybody riled up to break through the doors and it leads to someone being shot. This is what they're doing. It's been captured. It's proven now. How do we decipher this moving forward, because you can't claim to be an impartial judge when you're an active participant, Blake.
Well, that's what they're working on. So they're trying to get these guys out of jail. So they're being held without charges or what have you. And it seems like they were led into a trap. So it's just great that this is being exposed. I think it was attorney Roger Roots, who was working on the Bundy thing, I believe, years ago. He's a great lawyer. So good for them, and good for them getting to the truth. And thanks to Tucker Carlson and Kevin McCarthy and putting that information out there. And we'll get to the truth eventually, but it's going to take a while because the government was intent on one narrative, and now they're forced to play defense.
And thank you for the reminder, Blake. It has been a couple days since I've reached out to Kevin McCarthy again. I will reach out to him again because I want to review the footage from January 6th. Tucker Carlson was warned by Rupert Murdoch to stop, allegedly, and he stopped. So, he put out a couple videos, which led to the release of Jacob Chansley. What else do they have that could be helping people? I think we should figure it out. MJ Sedona saying the FBI has refused to answer questions about Ray Epps, I believe, his alleged connection with federal law enforcement, and the Democrats Select Committee is trying to clear his name. Yeah, that's pretty fantastic, especially knowing, like you point out, that text messages show Epps answering questions about his text messages. Where's the new one? There we go. Show text messages showing that Epps boasted to his nephew that he had orchestrated the protests at the Capitol. Wow, how do you talk your way out of that one?
And then it was in private. It was in the committee hearing, and that was brought up. But then I was curious, like, how didn't they, pursue this more and make an example out of it when it seemed like he was the most obvious person, and that was part of the evidence. It was shocking. So it's very obvious he's a provocateur, and they're trying to cover that up.
Yeah, and back to that AI, that unfrozen artificial intelligence lawyer. In theory, it would be nice if you could get some impartiality, and you could say, well, okay, you're accusing a former high-ranking official of this. Well, let's just for a second, let's go back and look at what these other people have done and kind of compare and contrast how do you weigh the damage done to a nation after what Hillary and the DNC did to spy, and Obama did to spy on Trump's campaign, and President Trump to spy on him with illegal FISA warrants, creating the phony Steele dossier to get these things rubber stamped? Like, what's the damage done to a nation when for 4 years, all you hear, it's mental abuse for these lying legacy media companies and the corrupt little tech underlords trying to censor information and push division, hatred, and just all for political power. I mean, what has been done, the repercussions of the actions of the Democrats, I mean, it is so toxic and corrosive to the United States of America. I mean, how do you even put that up against side by side, the president saying we need to go peacefully and patriotically make our voices heard? And I think we need to have more time to review some of these counts that were in question. But all the other side, all they wanted to do was cherry pick anything, to the point where they're even adding fake audio, screams and yells and threats to just change reality into what they have a preconceived notion of. This is how we're going to frame the president. And they did this for years. I mean, like, it would be nice if there was an impartial way that an AI computer interface could just understand and observe the totality of the nonsense and kind of balance it out. Because some of these judges, like, when they're allowing the political persecution of enemies to the point where lying is okay, like putting completely inaccurate data out there for human consumption, it's as bad as the food companies putting toxic food out for human consumption. We've reached a point where things have just got to change. I don't have every answer, but I think when you identify that things aren't working, you got to start trying some different stuff. So yeah, I mean, the whole Ray Epps thing is wonky. The whole situation is wonky. But like I said the other day, regarding Ford, Fisher, and News to Share getting some content used in South Park, by the time the J6 footage makes it to South Park, the narrative has jumped the shark like Fonzie in Happy Days, and I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it because it's been totally abused. And yeah, the federal officials need to be held more accountable when they get involved in air quote Gretchen Whitmer's kidnapping case. Like, they were the ones behind the plot. They created the plot, and then they try to just point it at a couple of dumb people who went along with, all right, well, you guys see Morgan. I don't know. I guess, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I could participate in your thing. It's like, it's your thing. You created the whole plot just so it could be exposed and you caught the bad guys. It's like, you're the bad guys. You're doing the bad stuff. This is not good. We can't allow this stuff to continue. So anyway, in the efforts, in the attempt to obtain transparency, like you said, things should not be obfuscated or hidden, Stephanie. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree there. We need to have more accountability from the people in law enforcement, because when they're trying to just frame people and push a corrupt narrative, it has to be stopped. It has to be stopped much more quickly, much more defiantly, because our nation is falling apart because of it. This stuff, these are not without repercussions. These incidents are not harmless. It's not, oh, it's just a little political dirty tricks. Yeah, it's just someone's trying to win an election. Like, this is really bad. It is mental poison for a large segment of our nation that believe when they turn on Fox News or MSNBC or CNN, they believe they're getting told accurate information, and they're not. They're getting told the most edited version of a reality that never happened, that's been bastardized, added sound effects, you cut out parts, you chop things together, and you just selectively put one side out there in a kangaroo court without having any opportunity from the accused to speak up and call out every single lie in real time. That's not justice. That's nonsense. So, Lord willing, Pelosi et al. Will have some legal repercussions coming their way for their high crimes and misdemeanors soon. Moving along, next story. All right.
Ooh, I like that.
That one up, Blake.
Yeah.
3 for 3. Blake's having a big day at the plate.
Oh, cool.
I like that. That should be like our main one. That's the best one so far.
It was catchy. It was bouncy. The colors worked. Yeah, it was good. That was a good one.
Very modern. Really goes well with our Blade Runner theme background.
Yes, mid-century modern, futuristic, post-apocalyptic. It's all those things at once.
Sweet.
Yeah. So, Blake, agree or disagree? People should be prosecuted and fined $25,000 for transphobia. Do you agree or disagree that they should be prosecuted and fined? People should, for transphobia.
Maybe in the rarest and most extreme cases, there may be an argument for that, but otherwise it seemed pretty ridiculous. That's something that they're trying to pull off in Canada. So it's not here. Let's hope it doesn't carry over here.
Canada.
So, yeah, it's
good job, buddy. I'm not your buddy guy.
Yeah. I'm all about, protecting, certain people, but I mean, this is probably going too far. So I don't know if I know I've got that video clip somewhere. I can pull that up here in a second. Well,
yes, let's do that. Yeah, Justin Trudeau. I'm just trying to figure out if Stephanie's dancing to music inside her head or if she's playing music while we're talking. I don't know if it's, or maybe Trudeau just gets her blood pumping, kind of gets her thinking.
Let's see if this will.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Trudeau. He's dreamy, right? Trudy.
I just like dancing. I'm a dancer.
Yes, but don't break your wrist.
Yeah,
they say break a leg, not a wrist. Break a leg, not a wrist. That's what they say.
Sure. I'll remember that next time.
Yes. No more break dancing on one. You're spinning around on a wrist. Is that what it was?
Okay.
You had the footage. You had that roll.
I had the footage. You guys were talking, so I didn't know what if we were done.
Oh no, we're just waiting on you. We're just babbling. Go ahead.
Oh, I was asking if you guys can hear it. All right, here we go. So speaking of Saturday Night Live and SCTV, it does seem like it's a sketch, as Alex Rosen is pointing out. You added a laugh track behind this, you'd think it was a skit. So let's roll.
I can't hear it.
No, I can't hear it either.
Oh, okay.
Maybe can you copy the link in the private chat and I'll put it up on my side?
Yeah, we could try that.
It's a little weird. Yeah, sometimes I'm not able to hear things. I don't know.
Yeah, and same. Like I don't know. When somebody else shares it, it works.
It's worked a couple of times. I'm not sure why that one didn't. Maybe my audio is coming out of a different spot. I don't know. But
that is possible.
Yeah.
Well, now what I'm wondering, okay, it's loading here. It's pulling up. Yeah, what I'm wondering is if they could actually add a laugh track behind it. Oh my Lord, look at what's behind it. Oh, look at this.
Yes.
This is a skit.
Quite a collection there.
This is out of Central Casting.
Yeah.
All right, here. I got it pulled up. Pause, rewind. Let's pull up the. Imagine the days when we have a producer. You and your cough. Goodness.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was on mute.
Nope. You let it rip. Rup. Okay, here we go. Here's the. All right, let's hear what they have to say. I don't know who this is, but this is Ontario. No,
Canada. Yeah.
Okay, Canada. Here we go.
Firstly, it enables the Attorney General to
wait. Now I can't hear it.
As LGBT.
You can hear it.
I can hear it.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah.
You guys can hear it, but I can't. All right, well, catch me in. That's just so weird.
Firstly, it enables the Attorney General to create a 2S LGBTQI plus community safety zone to prohibit within 100 meters of the property any homophobic, transphobic act of intimidation, threat, offensive threats, offensive remarks, protest, disturbance, and distribution of hate propaganda within the meaning of the criminal code. It also comes with it a penalty of $25,000 if prosecuted successfully. Firstly, it enables the...
Okay. Thoughts on that? You want to recap what she just said since I couldn't hear it?
Yeah, they're basically going to go after what they call, hate speech or propaganda, anti-LGBT stuff. And they're going to, including a $25,000 fine if they're prosecuted. So that's how they're going to send out the chill factor and silence anybody that might be mocking them. As in the, the Dylan Mulvaney thing, which we're going to get into a little bit more if we have time. But yeah, well, keep in mind this is Canada, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's going to come here, if they're going to try to push that everywhere else. And they're going to go after, social credit scores that'll sure will be mixed in there as well.
And man, oh man, did Jordan Peterson, did he know what was coming or what? I mean, years ago, you're like, why is this a big deal? What is the issue here? And you're like, oh man, this is okay. I guess he knew what was going on. But just out of every week, it seems like another number or letter or symbol is added to the community. Now this podium, this lectern says 2S. And then it says LGBTQI plus. And I believe plus refers to right? Like the plus is, they can't even say what it is because it's so bad. What does the 2S mean? I don't know what 2S means before LGBTQI plus.
Well, San Francisco, I think they have like 75 different classifications for slight variations. So I'm not exactly sure what all of the things stand for. I mean, it's obviously lesbian, gay, bi, trans, queer, and then there's the plus. That means you're a minor attracted person or something. And then I don't know what some of the other ones are.
That's referred to as a pedophile, a child abuser, right? That's what's lurking and hiding, perhaps under that plus. They can't say that. They don't like to mention that, but they add it. Perhaps. Stephanie, what's your thought on this? I mean, this is right think and wrong think. This is legislating and penalizing. I mean, if you don't become a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, I'm going to fine you $25,000. You don't have to like my team. It doesn't matter if you like my team. It doesn't matter if you hate my team. We're allowed to say and do whatever we want. You're not allowed to go to my facility and punch me in the face for attending a game. You can't light off an incendiary device in the locker room to disrupt the game. Okay, we're clear on the violence of this. Fine. That being said, no one can force you to become a Cubs fan. Like this is what it's trying to force people to acquiesce, to go down with your cause, with whatever that is, or else you're going to have to pay a penalty for not being a part of our group. Am I reading this wrong? Is this too harsh, or is this like really scary stuff coming out of Canada?
Well, let me reread this again. People should be prosecuted and fined $25,000 for transphobia. I would personally have to disagree. I mean, I'm just really coming from the angle, you live your life, I live my life. I don't criticize you, you don't criticize me. You stay in your lane, I stay in my lane, and we should be all fine. All this stuff is getting way more attention than it should be, but at the same time, we do need to talk about it because you're getting all these trans people killing themselves. And then what's the problem? Why trans people are killing themselves? Well, it's people not allowing them to be what they want to be. So it's just a very tricky, you're basically walking in the land of mines, basically. It's really expensive. Like, I was watching an interview last night of Lana Wachowski, and if you guys don't know this, the Wachowski brothers are the people who created The Matrix. And they also created other movies like Cloud Atlas, and they also created V for Vendetta. And then they transitioned, both of them, the brothers, they're now sisters. They transitioned to Lily and Lana Wachowski's, and in my mind, they're geniuses. They're most brilliant creators I have seen in the century, and it's so interesting to hear Lana Wachowski's like transition and all this, and doctors and therapists, and they made a ton of money through Matrix. A ton. They could get any best doctor, any best therapist, but not everybody has that. It's such a complicated realm. And then with Jocelyn saying with J.K. Rowling, she's really, she hates trans people. She has admitted it. Everybody from Harry Potter cast said, we do not believe in this. But the Harry Potter franchise is being revamped right now. They're doing a reboot, and they're having the original cast of Harry, Hermione, and Weasley back on. And so they're using their stories. So we'll see how strong of a stance these trans people have, because if so, they should just, completely boycott Harry Potter because J.K. Rowling is super transphobia.
And the part you were mentioning there about, people, you do your thing and I'll do mine, and you leave me alone and I'll leave you alone. The Skittles Mafia, as some people have called them, they're not interested in doing their thing and being left alone. That's completely clear, 100% obvious, patently obvious. It's about winning disciples to your team. It's about aggressively confronting people that don't cheer for your Phoenix Suns and getting in their faces, that they're not Cubs fans per se. Maybe they don't care about the Cubs, but when your drunk ass starts getting in their face, the Cubs and Ryan Sandberg, and you're just like, get out of my face. Now I don't like the Cubs because I don't like the way you're approaching me.
Yeah.
There's this big pushback with what's going on with this day of rage or day of vengeance, day of retribution, whatever they wanted to call it. They don't like Christ cucks. They don't like people that believe in biblical principles and go to church and want to believe what they believe. They don't think that's okay. They don't think it's okay for you to be alive if you hold such beliefs, and they're becoming very militant. Jocelyn is mentioning that the large numbers of humans, let alone this population in particular, taking SSRIs, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, mixed with a hormone cocktail. There's a lot of things that happen when you start changing the physiology, psychology of the human brain and how your system works. So it's not really about, like, we grew up in a world where Klinger was on MASH. Every episode, what's he going to wear today? Oh, he's got a frilly hat. Oh, he's got a dainty doily. Oh, he's wearing a pink dress today. You're like, oh, that's the guy that dresses the lady. Okay. I mean, we've seen this stuff around the Rocky Horror Picture Show, wearing the fishnet, wearing the stocking. It's like people do what they do, but like, it's never been yelling in your face that you must say what I tell you to say. You use this pronoun, you refer to me this way, I will ruin you if you do. It's like, I don't even know what baseball team you're a fan. I can't even see the logo on your hat. But if you're representing a group that's wearing that baseball hat, well, screw you and the horse you rode in on. Like, get out of my face. You do you, but like, I'm not going to be a Phoenix Suns fan. I said, I was a Phoenix Suns fan back in the day. I like Charles Barkley and Kevin Johnson and Dan Marley. I like those older teams. Cedric Ceballos. I've liked a lot of players on the team, even Steve Nash, but no Kevin Durant. But that's the point. We should be allowed to have differing opinions, and it just doesn't seem like that's the way things are working these days. And Canada's at the forefront of the lunacy. I don't think people should be fined for anything. There's no such thing as hate speech. You can be a hateful person. You know what? You put it on your record and you let the chips fall where they may. There's no such thing as hate speech. Polite speech has never needed defending once in the history of mankind. It's the unpleasant speech that needs protection, which is why they wrote the First Amendment. And guess what? They labeled it number 1 for a reason. So hard stop on all the craziness coming out of Canada, if you ask me. And Blake, how long do we have you today? It's reaching close to that time. Do we have you for a few more
We're
minutes?
already an hour and a half into the show. I think we've only hit about 3 stories. So
do we have a couple more?
We got about 5 minutes at the most.
Perfect. Let's go fast. I like that one. That was like a Tatooine or something. That was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
So Blake, agree or disagree that there will very likely be another new pandemic outbreak soon? Do you agree or disagree that there will likely be another new pandemic outbreak very soon?
Yeah, you know what? I think they are going to try to do the same playbook they did in 2020. There's going to be some reason why we can't do the regular in-person voting procedures. They're going to find some excuse to lock us down and do mail-in balloting or, online, something like that. There's going to be a reason for something so that they can continue to make their move. The deep state. So that was actually came out of Dr. Fauci. Let's see if I can pull this up, and I can. It says the quiet part out loud. There will absolutely be an outbreak of another pandemic. It may be next year, and that's what he said. Or it could be in our grandchildren's lifetimes. But I think he was caught in 2017, of course, predicting a surprise outbreak. And which did, in fact, come true. And it's changed our entire way of life, shut down our economy, changed everything forever. And so I think they're gearing up for round 2, and they're going to keep using that playbook until it doesn't work anymore. So we shall see. And of course, there's another reason for people to get additional boosters.
Of course. We'll get to your comments in a second. We're just doing a rapid fire with Blake on his way out the door. This should have been the natural follow-up to the last question, Blake, but Nike promoting sports bras with Dylan Mulvaney, that makes sense. Would you agree or disagree?
Man, this guy's really killing it with all the sponsorships. It's not only Bud Light, Nike. He did one for Tampax, but I mean, this is ridiculous. It's for sports bras. So here we go. Nike accused of mocking women after sponsoring transgender activists to promote sports bra. And here he is prancing around, or him or she. I don't care. I don't have anything personal against it. It's just ridiculous that this is. It's not a woman. This is a biological man who's like a boy. He's a man child. I would assume he's got all the biological anatomy. Why would he have a push-up bra if he doesn't have breasts? Or did he have implants? I don't know. I don't really care. But why would a major organization like Nike? I hate Nike now after all this stupid stuff with Colin Kaepernick, or they've had some really terrible takes the last few years. So I would never try to buy Nike products ever again. And here's yet another reason, and it's a slap against all women. He's like a caricature of a woman. He's not a real woman. So we're just like enabling this mental illness. And good for him. I don't care if he has 10 million followers on Instagram and does whatever or gets sponsorships, but let's be honest. He's not a woman. I don't know why Bud Light is celebrating his 365 days of womanhood. Did he get a surgery? I don't know what I don't know what's going on anymore. But our culture's going to hell. And
well, you can have a surgery and put a horn on a horse, but it doesn't make it a unicorn. I mean, I don't know.
Or they say you can't neuter a dog, or and it doesn't become a woman.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. Thanks for holding up your Nikes, by the way. One sentence answer, Blake. The GOP should back off from enforcing strict abortion laws. Agree or disagree?
100%. I've been saying this for years, and as a lifelong liberal who's trying to side up with the kind of libertarian conservative types, it used to be like we were kind of going towards progress and conservatives were holding back. But things have changed now. But this has been a very unpopular issue. I think it's backfired spectacularly. It certainly did with the Wisconsin Supreme Court. It did with the major Supreme Court with the midterms. And I agree. I am like to lean pro-life as much as possible. But this issue, when they have these kind of religious conservatives that are just very strict on the abortion laws, like you can't do it at all. And I think most people would agree that it can be done in the first trimester. It's sad. But I mean, when you say you can't do it, I think that really fires up the leftist base, and it makes it really hard to win these elections. So even though it's an awful issue, it is the one thing that really fires up the base. It's too divided. So I think the GOP, the conservatives, have to back off a little bit if they want to win these elections. Otherwise, yeah, they're going to. Well,
that's for the conservatives. What's your take on Robert F. Kennedy? Should he be the Democrats' top nominee in 24?
100%. He's great, and I love what he's.
You do like him. I think
Yeah.
you're going to be wearing a T-shirt of him or a flag or a hat. I got a hunch you're going to lean that way.
Well, I think if we get into an ideal situation, it's Trump versus Robert F. Kennedy, and I think it's a win-win scenario. I would love to see that. He's saying all the right things against Big Pharma, and he's also been very outspoken on this CBDC, going against the Federal Reserve and warning of the dangers. So I think it's great that we have a real liberal back. It's refreshing, and I think it's going to be great for the Democratic Party to watch them scramble, or have them on the big stage when he can present these issues and bring some common sense back to the party. Maybe they have a chance to reinvent themselves, because they are very lost these days.
And the final issue in this rapid fire Blake's Takes segment. I like this. This was essentially Blake's Takes, like rapid fire.
Ooh,
NPR, Blake, do you agree or disagree that NPR deserves its new Twitter label as state-affiliated media?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's hilarious, and that they put that label on there, and they've been complaining about it, but I'm going to show you just a couple of quick things. This is head of NPR here, John Lansing, saying NPR stands for freedom of speech and holding the powerful accountable. We need a vibrant press for the health of the democracy. We're disturbed there, because this is the statement that NPR made. They're disturbed to see that they're being labeled as state affiliate media. Description that per Twitter's own guidelines does not apply to NPR. They say they're supported by millions of listeners who depend on us for independent, fact-based journalism. They stand for freedom of speech and holding the powerful unaccountable. It is unacceptable for Twitter to label us this way.
Is that the same company that refused to report on the Hunter Biden laptop?
Yeah, it's exactly so. And I put that statement out. I said, hey, John, you guys deliberately interfered with the 2020 election by dismissing the Hunter Biden laptop. Please explain how your independent, fact-based journalism is holding powerful accountable. And clearly they do not. And somebody else put out this tweet. Says NPR received $485 million in federal funding in 2022, $640 million federal funding last. Oh no, sorry, this is it. I had to switch over to this tab, but here's NPR, now labeled as state-affiliated media. So yeah, they're clearly in the bag for the establishment. They have no right to call themselves independent, and it's about time they finally got called out. I don't know if they've tweeted since, so that's great to see. So.
Well, I mean, they're literally national public radio. Like they're funded by the public. They're the nation's radio service. So,
yeah,
they are.
I got called out and embarrassed, and it's glorious. But that's all I have. But it's been great. Thank you, everybody. Great job, guys. And we'll catch you probably next week or something. So
yes, tell us where they find you on Twitter again.
TV's Blake Walley and at the nextlevelnews.com.
Excellent. Right. Yeah, that was a fun Blake's takes. That was a rapid fire. We got a lot in there in that last couple minutes.
Good times. Way to go. All right.
All right. To be continued. Thank you, Blake.
All right. Later.
There he goes. Yeah, I like the I like the props. I like having props. Give some props, would you? You got the big foam hand. Give him some props. If we just want to buzz through these real quick. I know we didn't give a chance to let you chime in, but we had to get Blake out of here quick, so we kind of front loaded it that way.
And I could be quick too, because I know we've been here for like an hour and 35 minutes. So let's go.
Yeah. So regarding the new pandemic, I mean, they've talked about it. They've you know how this goes. This is a broken record with them, and they learned what they were able to get away with the last time. So it seems likely that they would pull off another pandemic, accidental or intentional. And it's no debate that there will be more viruses and global health situations that will go across the planet and kind of intersperse amongst all of us at some point. But I mean, do you think that another one of these will be coming soon? Would you agree that one of these is coming soon? Because Fauci's addicted to this stuff. The CDC, the FDA, the government, the pharmaceutical industrial complex is addicted to it. And I mean, what do you think another one is coming soon? Either intentional or man-made, accidental or man-made, natural or man-made?
Absolutely. I before this pandemic happened, we were already getting warnings from Bill Gates and Fauci, and then it happened. So if they're saying this again, I absolutely agree with them. That's why it's really important, guys. And I'm not, I need to take my own advice as well, but to be prepared. But yeah, definitely it's going to happen again. How soon? I don't know. But you have to understand with viruses, even if it's man-made or not, things evolve and like mutate. So it's like the cat's already out of the bag. So who knows what type of different colds or things, like everything is different now. So the mutation of it's I mean, who knows like how much it has changed. So yeah, it's definitely gonna happen again. I think a lot of people are not gonna be down to wear a mask and close down. That's for sure. A lot of people, they're gonna be like, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and that's gonna come from the Democrats. But I would say that was probably the plan from the beginning, because I think the government is actually smarter than we want to admit. They want us always to make it seem like we have to come up with the idea ourselves, right? And it's like everybody, like at the beginning of the pandemic, I'm like, everybody's going to get sick and tired of masks. Trump's saying this right now, but everybody's like, you have to wear a mask. And now you have Democrats and liberals. They're sick and tired of it. They're like, oh, whatever, I got COVID, no big deal. It's like, you weren't like that the first week, but everybody was scared and didn't know what was going on. So if the people are going to refuse this, majority of it, and there's some they're going to comply, but it's a lot of these companies like Elon Musk, he's like, if you're not physically coming into work, you're no longer an employee at SpaceX or Tesla, because so tired of working from home, just like that South Park episode Ford Fisher was talking to you about remote and like mental health day, all that. It's hilarious, but it's definitely going to come back. It's just we don't know when.
Yeah, and it was interesting. There was a lot of concern at the beginning. A lot of pundits out there on the talking head, lying legacy media stations, and what was censored was one thing and what was promoted on social media was the other. And kind of like at the beginning of COVID, it was like, well, I'm not taking anything. If Trump's behind the shots, I wouldn't trust that at all. I wouldn't want to take a vaccine. I wouldn't want to do this or that. And a lot of people were on record saying, no, they didn't trust Trump at all. They don't want anything to do with any solution he has to add. That's like the classic cutting off your nose to spite your face kind of situation. They didn't care. They just didn't, whatever. It's like when they asked Biden about that school shooting and they said, so-and-so was for this. And he goes, oh, well, I must be against it. And he made a joke out of it. It was really in poor taste for Biden to do that. But it's just reflexively, if the worst people in your opinion politically are for something, you just kind of instinctually go against it. Whether that makes a lot of sense or some sense or 100%, it's somewhere in there to some degree. I think it's highly likely that works a lot of time. But yeah, I mean, Democrats and the left were pretty against vaccines and that type of stuff for coronavirus when Trump was involved with it. But as soon as the election happened, I'll use what Styx Hexenhammer says. He says, because you can't say certain things on community guidelines, and he'll just say honk, honk, kind of do the clown show thing. But yeah, as soon as Biden seized control in a coup of this nation, and then I go and say it, it turned into like everybody must trust the science. And if you don't get this, you're not allowed outside, and we must mask forever and schooling from home forever. And it was just like, it became a religion to these people. It became an area of worship. They worshiped at the altar of Fauci. And it once again, it became a psychosis. It was a Dr. Robert Malone that called it mass formation psychosis. Yeah, I think it kind of turned into kind of the opposite, where most of the people on the left were very skeptical until they were in charge, and they said, yes, we must absolutely do this. Absolutely. And it was really terrifying to watch. It's just like the mob mentality.
Yeah. And also at the beginning, I mean, the Democrats, I think they were like really like against, like, remember when Nancy Pelosi, which I thought was kind of racist to say, where she said, oh, you could be in China, in Chinatown, and kiss somebody and you won't get the virus. And she said, everything's fine over there, when it's like, dude, they've been locked down and building hospitals. It's that's actually when I started preparing, because I make sure it's important to follow news in other countries. And when I saw they were building hospitals, I'm like, it's going to happen here. It's going to happen here. And everybody's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. And then it happened. And I literally prepared 1 week before Trump did the emergency state announcement. And then everybody was going to the grocery store and couldn't find nothing for like a whole year.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good warning now. Is looking around here for some additional water filtration opportunities.
Watch the other countries. Yeah.
It's
what Europe, what China's doing.
Yep. And if we can be a little bit more prepared now, let's get a little bit more prepared while things are, relatively calm before the storm. Like, this is the good time. You don't want to be rushing for supplies when you need them. Yeah.
Like right now
extras.
You could get sanitizer, you could get soap, you could get mask, even if it's still, I like wearing masks. I know didn't really do much a difference, like Jocelyn said in the comments. I totally agree with you, Jocelyn, but it does help, like, on at some level of certain things. And I mean, during that whole time I had to wear a mask, and typically I would get the cold and flu, and I didn't get the cold and flu that year. So that was a huge plus, but during that time, I was like working as a manager at Nordstrom's in retail. And so I'm dealing with all these people all the time. And it's just, now everybody was wearing masks. Now you're not wearing no mask. And yeah, we'll see.
And that is a good question. Would people tolerate it again? I mean,
I would say no. I don't think nobody's going to tolerate it. Especially like how much school kids miss. I mean, doing school from home is horrible, especially for little kids.
Well, I don't know if anybody else has had this reaction, but this has happened to me several times in the past 2 months. someone is having a medical issue, and they go in to get looked at, and the first question is, "Oh God, did they take the thing?" And it's like, "Yeah, they took it, and all of the updates." And you're like, "Oh God." And it's almost like a foregone conclusion, like, "Oh, like Godspeed, God be with you." And then another person like, "Oh, I'm having this difficulty. I'm having this medical situation." "Oh, well, you didn't take the thing, did you?" "No, no, 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 no." "Oh, God, thank you. Good, 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 good. Okay. So you got a chance." And it's just like, maybe not everybody thinks that way, but that's kind of how I think. It's kind of how a lot of people around me think. And I guess we've all kind of gotten into, we've retreated into our own personal bubbles of information to the point where if it's comfortable to what we already believe, we'll tolerate it. If not, then we just have to dismiss it or rage against it, I suppose. But yeah. Oh, Jocelyn adding that Fauci tripled his income during COVID and just sold his book for 5 million. Yeah, but once again, that's just that's just the money about. Remember when he was on stand getting grilled on Capitol Hill, and he said, "I'm not required to release to you what my residual payments are from these. I have no obligation to tell you that." It's like, oh, really now? So if you're hearing that he tripled it, maybe he 30x'd it. I mean, if you sell your soul, sell it high.
He's rolling in the money.
Yeah, well, let's see how that comforts him when he leaves this place,
But
because you can't take it
it's
with you.
actually, but I know everybody's gonna hate me for this, but I found some really interesting facts about Fauci. Like I didn't know. So like everybody knows like Magic Johnson, the basketball player, right? And when he got like what was it, HIV or AIDS?
HIV.
Yeah, HIV. So, there wasn't really any treatment HIV at that time. And one of the most leading head people at that time was Fauci. So, Magic Johnson actually got connected with Fauci and helped treat his HIV like in the top tier things. And that's why Magic Johnson is still alive today, all thanks to Fauci.
Well, I think what we need to do is we need to go back and we need to study Fauci and AIDS. I was listening to an amazing report. It was on John B. Wells, Caravan to Midnight. Do you know John B. Wells or Caravan to Midnight?
No, I do not.
Man, it's he's been one of my favorite guests over the years. And he had someone who has done a really deep dive into Anthony Fauci. And if you remember the movie Dallas Buyers Club, wasn't that the one McConaughey got
Matthew
nominated?
McConaughey.
Did he win for that, or did he just
that's
get
it.
nominated for that? I don't recall.
I'm not too sure. I think he won. I know he was nominated, but I think he won because that was a good movie. That was some good acting.
And it was highly acclaimed regardless. But in
Yeah.
those days, he was looked at as the bad guy for a lot of reasons. And when you compare AIDS and the hysteria surrounding it and the resulting tragedy, heartbreak, and terror that this caused, not just in the gay community, but all across the world, and you look at the damage caused by the cocktail solutions that he put forward, is like, you need to be taking these. There's the accusations that there were healthy people who were ruined by bad medicine, so that people could line their pockets with it and continue. Oh, look, more people are dying. It's like, well, they're dying because of what you're doing to them, not because of what they have. And anyway, I listened to like it was maybe an hour or 2 hour special on Caravan to Midnight the other day, and it was fascinating. I'd encourage everybody out there to do a little bit more research, because it was stunning. It was just stunning to wonder and rethink how Fauci's role could have impacted both of these situations, and how he was kind of in the driver's seat for both of them. And it just really makes you wonder. Really makes you wonder what's going on. So yeah, I would encourage everybody to do a deep dive there. 3 other topics that we got to with Blake, and we want to get to this really quick before we bounce out of here. Thank you everybody for watching and participating, by the way. Oh, geez. Jocelyn is saying she was at a grocery store when a 30-year-old just fell over dead. The incidence of died suddenly is the #1 cause of death last year. Good Lord. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
scary.
you know, and those things happen anecdotally all the time, but like way more often
Hmm.
these days. What would you say as well? You know, we had that Wisconsin Supreme Court, Stephanie, and you know they now have the Democrats have a majority in the court, and yes, it's really annoying to think of the court being right or left because you're just supposed to be neutral, a
Hmm.
neutral arbiter of here are the laws and I'm just going to
Yeah.
interpret them, but nothing is anymore. Everything's politically based, unfortunately. I don't see this as a good thing. But you know, some people are saying that the abortion topic had maybe played a role in Wisconsin, whereas it was a winnable opportunity for Republicans, but because of this issue and because of Trump being so adamant about putting pro-life Supreme Court justices on his court, which led to the not the overturn of Roe versus Wade, but the clarification on Roe versus Wade. It's like no, it never was something that you had the ability to legislate nationwide. It was always a state to state thing, and that's all they did was kick it back to the states. But yeah, Blake
Hmm.
seemed to say that he does think that the GOP should back off of enforcing strict abortion laws. Would you agree or disagree with that? That the GOP should back off of enforcing strict abortion laws and pushing for, you know, a strong pro-life stance?
Yeah, I would just, yeah, I would agree that they should back off on enforcing strict abortion laws because it's, you get these states where it's, you can't abort the baby even if you've been raped, and that's not cool, or from a family member. That's when you like really need it the most. So, yeah, I think they should, yeah, it's all up to you. It's all up to the woman, like personally, um I'm kind of in the middle about this, but people, girls, women should have their own choice, and especially like in law, you shouldn't have it where, oh, I can't get it done in this state, so now I have to go to a different state. I mean, what's the big deal? If they want to do it, they want to do it, they weren't prepared or whatever their personal reason for it, that's their choice. And it's been going on for quite some time. But yeah, the GOP should definitely back off. Like, back off, don't be involved. Like, just let it be, just give the resources for the people who need it. And if they want to use it, they can use it. If not, oh well, no biggie.
And in the governing documents of the country, I mean, it refers to the life, liberty, and property. It was revised to be life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, just some of the basic core tenets of why a government exists in the first place, to defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of
Mm-hmm.
happiness. I mean, if you just start from the very core component on which, you know, the foundation upon which the rest of the structure of our governing documents are built, defending life is up there. So like there's a part of me that sees that as I can understand and appreciate the perspective of saying, look, the only reason a government exists is to protect life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Like that's all we're doing here. Anything past this, it's really overstepping our bounds. I mean, there's a life inside of the belly that's being protected by people that are really pushing pro-life positions. I have much like people across this country, we have been able to understand one point of view and understand the other point of view. Um, it makes sense why people would adamantly want to protect the lives of kids. I mean, if you can't protect the life of a kid, I mean, what else you got? That should be a slam dunk. That's a layup. That's a gimme putt. You know, that's a free throw. That's the easiest thing you could do. Um, but on the flip side, I've been making that point for a long time. I think the best way to govern a nation is to be fiscally conservative. Don't spend outside of your means. Be smart about your money. Yes, splurge a little bit, but then you got to work a little extra and save a little bit more, and then you balance it. But it can't just be spend, 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 kick the can down the road and let someone else deal with it. And that's what they've been doing for way too long. But I've believed for a long time it's fiscally conservative. The perfect candidate in America would be fiscally conservative, socially libertarian. Do what you want. and then pro-capitalist. Like the capitalism needs to be at the core of the incentive-based system that we have. Otherwise, everybody has their hand out and nobody's doing any of the work. There's extreme cases where some people are completely indigent, unable to provide for themselves. But there's a lot of gray area where people are gaming the system to just kind of get away, pull a fast one over on you, if you will. So, I would probably, God, this is a really tough one. And Blake was saying that maybe the abortion topic really hurt the Republicans in the midterms. I don't know that it did. Like, that was said a lot. And I kind of instinctively thought that. But then if you look at some of the polling data, when you break apart the numbers there, it seemed like that issue had way more momentum on the pro-life side than it did from the other side, from the pro-choice side. And so I don't know that it really caused that much of a net gain or net loss overall. So I'm a little torn on this one. But I do think one of the only ways you could govern a nation of this size would probably be to keep it libertarian, keep it where people get to make their own decisions. And then, in the meantime, you advocate for why you might want to consider making what you would consider to be a good decision versus a bad decision, or better decisions to avoid getting into positions that you don't want to be in the first place, and kind of focusing energy on prevention versus just, the end result in abortion, which should be sad for anybody participating. It's nothing to celebrate. But like, should it be a thing? I mean, it has been a thing, but maybe there's things we can do to not get into that situation in the first place. And maybe that's where our energy can be best spent. But it's a nation of legislation, and somebody's got to pick something and put it on paper until that's rewritten by the other person. So I don't know. I'm a little mixed on that one. Yeah. So to wrap it up, we just have 2 quick questions. We'll get your quick takes on these. Are you familiar with Robert F. Kennedy? Are you following him? Are you a fan? Are you indifferent? Are you just now? You're on mute still. Still on mute, though. Oh, can't hear you. Can't hear you. Yep, there we go. Coming back. Hold on. One word. Sounds like. Nope, not yet. Nope. Still silent. Nope. I do not hear a thing. And I don't think it's coming from my side either. The question posed to Stephanie Jackson. You can follow her on Twitter. She's at Stephanie with 5 E's and a J on Twitter at Stephanie J. Question was about Robert Kennedy. She's talking, but nothing is coming through. Did her batteries die? Did her charge go on the earbuds? No. She's typing. She's going to the ear. I'm giving the play-by-play. Checking her right ear, checking the left. Still silent. Nope. MJ Sedona saying Robert F. Kennedy is a leading voice in the anti-vax movement. I support him for that reason alone. Stephanie goes, I don't know. Can you click on the settings and then go from one to the other? So yeah, Robert F. Kennedy. I mean, anything would be better than Biden. But I would almost rather keep Biden because he's just such a train wreck. It's got to be the easiest thing to defeat, especially without drop boxes and mail-in ballots. MJ Sedona saying it's horrible to use abortion as birth control. Then the fetus is used for science experiments. Yeah, that's the really gruesome part of that whole topic, is that there's a whole pharmaceutical industrial complex industry that needs those parts. They use things for sweetener and food and candy and other. It's a whole thing, and it's tough. So no, I still don't have your voice. I still don't have you. You're thinking, you're scrunching, you're shaking your head. You got nothing. Robert F. Kennedy, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down or thumbs in the middle. Do you have any? You like Robert Kennedy? You are a fan. Okay, so she's indicating to me that she is a fan of Robert F. Kennedy. At least to replace Biden. And then final question. This is the most fun interview I've ever done with a silent, but I can see. So it's like we got to do this pantomime style. Do you agree or disagree that NPR deserves its new Twitter label as state-affiliated media? Agree or disagree? So we'll do the thumbs up or thumbs down. I can see. Yeah, so you do think so. I do as well. I think, it's national public radio and it should be labeled as such. And I think the others should be labeled as like deep state media agencies. This is CIA, FBI, alphabet agency run propaganda networks. they're not news, and the people need to know what they're consuming. I think you should be able to tell if your products that you're getting at the grocery store are genetically modified. I think you should be able to tell what ingredients are in them. I think you should be able to tell who's running your media outlets, because if it's just straight propaganda, you might want to reconsider your source. So anyway, this would be a good point to wrap it up, especially since I'm talking to myself, Stephanie. I don't know what happened to your voice. She's throwing her hands up in the air. She says, "I don't know. I did nothing, man." Maybe it's the deep state coming after us, right? They're silencing your microphone for They might be onto something there. A little too on the nose, if you will. But yes, follow Stephanie. She's on Twitter at Stephanie with 5 E's and a J. She's going to be covering. She's got all of the fun extraterrestrial space race information. It's one of her biggest areas of study and interest. So follow her on Twitter for that information, as well as constant I love Phoenix Suns chatter. We'll see how that goes. The playoffs are gearing up. I mean, the Cavs have clinched home court rather, in the first round of the playoffs. We're the number 4 seed. And if we were in the West, I think we'd be the second best record in the West. We're pretty good. No. You don't need to say thumbs down. Like, I hope we meet in the championship this year. That, like, I will say that until we can't. I hope our teams meet in the championship this year and we destroy you. Maybe that's where we differ. Maybe that's where we'll go different directions, but I digress. So follow her on Twitter. We appreciate you for joining us on the program. Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you to Blake Walley. And thank you to Jocelyn and everybody over there. Oh, yeah. Jocelyn says NPR equals CCP. I mean, right? They got 3 letters apiece. How could they be any different? Case closed. All right. Signing out. I appreciate you all. I love you. And we'll talk again soon. Take care. Peace.